Ever hear the claim that Judaism treats non-Jews differently? Did you ever hear the claim that certain texts in Judaism or that Jews might treat non-Jews in an unequal way or a way that they wouldn't treat their fellow Jews in? Well, this claim is brought up often. Unfortunately, it's brought up especially at times where Jews are under attack. Often anti-Semitic people or people who are trying to discriminate against Jews will bring up this topic and say, look, Jews treat each other in a better way than they treat everyone, and use this as an excuse to treat Jews differently. So let's take a look at the topic and see what the truth is and see how to deal with it. So the fact is that yes, Judaism does have a system of laws that in some ways does favor other Jews. However, that's not the only part in this picture. What's important to look at is the whole picture. The fact is that when we're looking at this conversation, we're looking at Judaism as a religion. We're not looking at Judaism as a country. We're not looking at Judaism as a political system. We're looking at Judaism as a religion. And Judaism as a religion scores better on the scorecard of religion than any other religion in its treatment of other members of other religions. Yes, every religion treats members of another religion differently. That's the way it is. Religions promise their believers better conditions and try and create a group and try and reward those who follow its religion, and that's normal. That's the way religions are. However, Judaism, unlike other religions, has the best scorecard for treating others who are not members of its own religion. Judaism is the first religion ever to have come and said that we treat other members of other religions with dignity and kindness. Judaism is the one that introduced the idea that all men were created equal. The same idea that has inspired the founding fathers of the United States of America was introduced by Judaism. Judaism is the first religion to oblige its own members to go and act with kindness, charity, and giving to members of other religions. Judaism is the only religion in the world that grants members of other religions a part in the world to come, a part in the afterlife. Judaism is the only religion to encourage its own members to treat others with tolerance, kindness, and in a loving way. In fact, Judaism is one of the only religions that tells its members not to proselytize and not to encourage others to join its own religion. In that, Judaism shows a pluralism and a special sensitivity to others that allows others to be different and recognizes others for their difference, not compelling them all to join in with our own religion. So does Judaism treat others in a different way? Absolutely, of course it does. Every religion does. But at the same time, it's important to remember that Judaism also treats others in a way that's better than any other religion. It's also important to remember that track records are important. And the track record of the Jewish people is remarkable. It's a track record that is unparalleled. The Jewish people have been around for thousands of years, and for thousands of years have been interacting with their neighbors, with people they've been living amongst, and people who've been living in their own land, like we see today in the state of Israel, treating them remarkably well, remarkably charitably, and in a way that's really a light on to everyone and a way to inspire others. Are there problematic texts in Judaism? Absolutely. Are there texts that are difficult to understand or that seem discriminatory? That can be. However, that's not the entire picture. The entire picture is that Judaism treats others remarkably well and sets an example. And finally, it's also important to note that a lot of the things that are said in Judaism are not necessarily the final word. For example, if I wrote down the words of every senator and every congressman and then put it out there in the media, it may look bad, but that doesn't mean that that's the United States of America. It doesn't mean that every word any senator, any congressman has ever said goes into law. What's important to look at is the law. So that's another perspective to have in this conversation. And finally, what's also very, very important to look at is the fact that Jews have been always known for their remarkable kindness to others and the way they're giving to others, and this is all while they were living under horrible conditions. Judaism is the only religion to function under such distress, and many of the statements that were made about non-Jews were made in the context of being oppressed and distressed. And rabbis, in fact, explicitly point out that a lot of these difficult words or things that show a different treatment for Jews and non-Jews were said under circumstances in which Jews were treated in an oppressive way. Now, does this mean that if you tell all this information to people who are out there to get Jews and to say that they do discriminate, is that going to work? No, probably not. Does that mean we should apologize for our texts and for our holy scriptures? Absolutely not. Tolerance and diversity cannot be achieved by scrutinizing other people's texts. As long as people are committed to a mutual state of well-being, of a commitment to tolerance, that's all that's needed. Tolerance will not be bred by digging into other people's sources and asking them to apologize for that. So with that in mind, it's important that we be proud of what we've got. Remember that Judaism has been the first religion ever to recognize the image of God in each and every individual, to oblige its members to be kind to others, and just to remember that the haters are always going to hate. Thank you so much for listening, and please subscribe.